What's up guys, welcome to Anime Kahide. If you'd like to help me out, please hit
agitating the demon lord Leon on a daily basis, shooting nuclear magic off to provoke him. It didn't turn into a war thanks to Leon being cool-headed, but if it was any other demon lord, the fallout would have been massive. But whenever Carrera had her fill, she'd just go back to her home horse. That's who she was, and before now, Agera was at a loss to figure out how to teach her some common sense. Not now, however. Up to this point, there was no one who could give orderful as well. That was doubly true for Carrera, who could make even those ruling classes do her bidding. Even offering your opinion to her was done at your own risk. Carrera only allowed Agera to serve her without being rubbed out of existence because she liked him. Now, though, Carrera hers favor, Carrera had best start to learn a little patience, and using her head instead of. If Carrera could learn and master Tempest's assorted legal rules and regulations, Agera thought, then he really hoped she could act more considerate in her day-to-day life, too. Then maybe my hardships would be eased a little. With that modest wish in his heart, Agera made a daily effort to offer Carrera the frank advice she needed. He was always on the lookout for a good opportunity. Suddenly went on the move.
Hey, Agera, you gave them a lot more time than that, didn't you?
This reckless action on their part, akin to a betrayal, made him angry for the first time in quite a while.
Lady Carrera, leave that old man alone, and let's teach a lesson to them.
Sounds good. You won't stop me, of course, it's right, Agera?
The terrifying tone wasn't what she expected.
Yes, I did tell them to wait an hour, but I did not say they couldn't
Master or broke their promises to him would face his almighty rage.
Great. This is so thrilling. See, that's why I love you so much.
He'd never stop Carrera now.
From clouds.
Sometimes, when you offend someone who's usually mild-mannered, they can react with
No, that's still too little. Lady Carrera, remember what our master told us, please. He told you he wanted something massive that'd scare the Empire out of their wits. Wouldn't combining our full forces together be the best way to adhere to our master's wishes?
Lately. Your words just woke me up. Right. Let's show them what we've got.
His composure, began to say, uh-oh, to himself, but it was too late for that now. She was altered a nuclear flame, but in the forbidden gravity collapse spell, it was instead suppressed and compressed to create a supergravitational field, in laypeople's terms, an artificial black hole even their own weight. Marching on open terrain proved to be their downfall. There was no way to escape. He did think it could wind up being trouble, yes, but not even he realized that Carrera had so much power. But dwelling on it at this point was a waste of time. The long-suffering Agera's troubles had only just begun. Geld smiled. This was awesome. Yes, he figured she'd be pretty strong, but Carrera's might was simply unimaginable.
Sure didn't expect her to pick off that many with just one blow. Now none of us will have a chance to show our stuff.
He sounded a touch sullen about it, but Geld didn't really mean what he said. The Imperial Army was in a state of chaos, but there were still over 20,000 survivors, and they were all in a mad rush for Geld's army, trying desperately to escape the carnage. They were no longer heavily outnumbered, but now wasn't the time to let their guard down. Geld understood that well enough. After witnessing the horrors of death firsthand, all those troops were doubtlessly going to fight within an inch of their lives. The pressure they'd lay on should never have been taken lightly. But Geld was unfazed. And perhaps thanks to their commander's calm demeanor, all Geld's forces, right down to the lowliest buck private, were at attention and sizing up the enemy.
Shields up.
Once the enemy was within spitting distance, Geld issued the solemn order. The Second Corps responded in perfectly choreographed order, and in the next moment, they became a wall that would allow nobody through. The fierce clash of army against the army came the next instant, but despite that, Geld's forces didn't retreat a single step backward as they engaged with the Empire. Even after that, Geld's wall didn't break down at any point along the line as it pushed the Imperials back. That was how the final battle began. Now it was Xian's turn to make a move.
Let's charge them. I want to slaughter every last one of Sir Rimuru foes.
Xian's elite guard, led by Team Reborn, roared their approval. At once, a good 10,000 magic born of all shapes and sizes began to act on their own discretion. These were Xian's most diehard fans, trained by the woman herself, and being commanded by Team Reborn allowed them to largely do as they pleased. They were a sizable army, and in a fight, they were good enough to turn heads. Xian's extra skill Mortal Fear united them with Team Reborn, making these 10,000 magic-born a legion of marauding knights of terror as they slammed into the Empire. Mortal Fear fanned the enemy's fears, sapping them of their will to fight. The effects were tremendous. The enemy, no longer able to tap into their full abilities, left themselves exposed, open, and ready for Team Reborn to trample all over them. Wearing matching sets of bluish-purple armor forged by Garm, Xian's forces rampaged across the battlefield. To the Imperial army, the mere sight was nightmarish, but 3 giants among them, each exuding a ridiculous large aura of dark energy, caught most of their attention. Their own aura had assimilated with Xian's mortal fear, turning them into living incarnations of violence. They were, of course, the 3 sons of the demon lord Dagrul. But the rest of the guard wasn't about to be undone. Taking full advantage of their resistance to death, Team Reborn focused on keeping the enemy's attention. As they did, the other Magic-Born would dispatch the exposed foes. That was the basic strategy, and it let them steadily cut their numbers without taking any damage. Gobzo was among them.
Oh, my head's getting itchy.
Despite his casual observation, there was a stab wound in his head from when someone stuck a sword in it. The way it closed up, bit by bit, was gruesome to see if you weren't used to it.
Way to keep at it, Gobzo.
Yeah, if I took that blow, it would have killed me, huh?
Gobzo had grown a lot, enough that his troops were truly impressed with him. In the meantime, 3 cyclones began to form on the battlefield, one of Dagrul's sons in the eye of each one. It was from those landmarks that the Empire's left wing began collapsing. Members of Xian's elite guard weren't about to miss that chance, and now the Imperials were being pushed back at breakneck speed. Even the Empire's troops, desperate and running on pure adrenaline, were no match for them.
That's it for this video, guys. Thank you for always watching my videos and supporting my channel. Shout out to the new members of Anime Kohai supporters: Zach Rosen, Byron, Yuki Iki, Kayode DePeza, This Is Not My Username, Von Joseph, Carl Stephen Bernadal, Tank Bailey, Cam, Gareth Hashimoto, Ankit Kumar, SPT Mighty, Canon McClanahan. Thank you so much for helping out. I'll see you guys in the next video.